I don't know if you've ever read much of the Bible. I really commend it to you. It's just full of some amazing stories, some wonderful truths and some helpful realities. And it's good whether you're a person of faith, not a person of faith, a different faith. The Bible is full of profound wisdom and wonderful stories. And one of my most favourite is called the Acts. It's about the Acts of the first churches, or the Acts of God in the first churches. And there are remarkable and amazing stories. One of my favourite is when a guy called Paul turned up in a city called Thessalonica. You can still go there on holiday now. And when he got there, as was his usual practice, first of all he preached in the synagogue and some Jewish people were persuaded and trusted Jesus. Then he took it to the marketplace and preached that same message, and lots of people going around their everyday business heard and came to trust Jesus, and this little church started to form, this little community of Jesus followers. But others in the city of Thessalonica were really angry by this, and we're told a renter mob swings into action to lynch Paul, and he's frightened for his life, and he runs and he heads down the coast and he finds safety. And a few weeks later, about 3 weeks or so, he sends a friend, Timothy, to go find out what's happening in Thessalonica. And Timothy comes back to Paul and reports that they're actually full of fear. I mean, no surprise there that their founder was practically lynched and had to run for his life under a threat of assassination. It's no wonder they're fearful. In fact, some of them have lost their lives. We're not clear whether it was because of these renter mob antics or they'd just been poorly and had died, but they're worried about people they loved and where they are after death. Now, some of us can associate very strongly with that at the moment. It's always a worry, but particularly at this time. What's going to happen to loved ones who have died? Now, amazingly, one of the realities of Jesus' resurrection, for those of us who trust it, is there is enormous hope in the face of death. This is what Paul does as he writes back to them. This is 1 Thessalonians chapter 4:13. He says, "My dear brothers and sisters, we do not want you to be uninformed about those who sleep in death, so that you do not grieve like the rest of humanity who have no hope. For we believe that Jesus died and rose again, and so we believe that God will bring with Jesus those who have fallen asleep with him." Paul writes back to them and he says, look, we don't want you to grieve. Of course you're sad, but we don't want you to grieve without hope. Those people who have died, if they've believed in Jesus, if they've trusted in Jesus, you will see them again. They've gone to heaven. And so your grief doesn't need to overwhelm you. There is hope, certainty that you'll see them again. Now I want to speak to you just for a moment, a couple of groups. First, for those of us who are grieving Christians that we loved and knew, maybe family members, but other Christians who have died, your grief is fine. Your grief is good, but make sure it's got that ingredient of hope and certainty that that Christian loved one, you'll see them again, they're with Jesus. Secondly, I want to talk to you though, if you are worried about your own death. And one of the things we worry about when we think we might die is those we leave behind. One of the hopes that you can have is if you put your trust in Jesus, just simply trust him with your life and your death, that you know those you love, who you leave behind, will grieve you, but they won't grieve without hope. They'll have that certainty of where you are. And if they trust Jesus, the certainty of seeing you again. Now we're being encouraged all the time to speak more openly about the reality of death just at this moment. I want to help you do that, but I want to help you do it in the light of the hope of Jesus and his resurrection. We are going to grieve, many of us, but we do not have to grieve without hope. And some of us, people are going to grieve for us, but we don't have to worry that they'll grieve without hope. We can trust Jesus and know the certainty of his resurrection. If you'd like to read more of this part of the Bible, then you can follow through the link in the description below. And if you'd like to discover more about the church, Christianity, or following Jesus, then please email us at the address below.